Welcome to our journey across southeastern Europe in an exceptionally scenic and historic part of the world known as the Balkans. In this four-part series, we'll take you on the road less traveled, where few tourists have tread, a breathtaking 3,000-kilometer trip over land through 7 countries, a dozen UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and some of the most spectacular scenery we've come across in our lives. In what's regarded as Europe's best-kept secret, we'll marvel at nature, tour the sites, meet the locals, sample the cuisine, and do some shopping in the Balkans. We'll begin our series in northern Greece in the historic citadel Thessaloniki, and onwards to Meteora to explore its monasteries and cliffs. We'll cross the border to Macedonia to visit scenic Lake Ohrid and its mystical Byzantine legacy. Then to Albania, driving along the ancient Roman highway via Ignatia to its capital Tirana. All these before continuing on to the former Yugoslav republics of Montenegro, Croatia, Bosnia, and Slovenia. So join us in this first part of our series on the Balkans. I'm David Celdran, and this is Executive Class. Our destination, the Balkans, a mountainous peninsula in southeastern Europe with a history spanning more than 2 millennia. The Balkans is a patchwork of races, cultures, and religions, and though this has fueled violent conflict in the past, including a brutal civil war in the former Yugoslavia as recent as the 1990s, it's this same diversity in such close proximity to each other that gives the region its unmistakable quality and its rich contribution to Europe's history. And so, with bags packed, our seats booked, and a pleasant half-day flight to the region behind us, it's time to begin our Balkan road trip. Day 1. Touchdown in Thessaloniki. We're met at the airport by Stavri Sifligu of Albanian Experience, the tour company that's taking us around the Balkans. Based in Albania, but with an extensive network of local guides, transport options, and travel partners throughout the region, they know the Balkans more than any. We start at the waterfront, the promenade of the old town of Thessaloniki. It's the perfect introduction to the port city that has played a key role in the region's over 2 millennia long history.
Of course, we just arrived, and normally everything started from here. Everything arrived from here. Starting from ancient time to the modern time, we see a lot of people coming from east to west, from west to east, and this is the melting point, this is the crossroad of civilization, and this is why this city is so important.
And that's the story of Thessaloniki. It's all about these layers of civilizations and this mix of ethnicities and migrants that have come here.
This is, as you mentioned, this is not just the story of Thessaloniki, this is the story of the Mediterranean. A story which stretches for millennia, and a story of people. It's a story of empires, but also common people. People who leave their countries to find a better life. So Thessaloniki, it's such a city that makes it possible.
In that sense, Thessaloniki is also the story of the Balkans, a region of Europe that has seen wave upon wave of migrants and invaders, and layer upon layer of civilizations. And the many landmarks and ruins of empires you find scattered around the city make you realize that. The equestrian statue of Alexander the Great looms large over the waterfront. Thessaloniki is, after all, the capital of Greek Macedonia, Alexander's home province from where he began his global conquest from. The Greek city takes its name from Princess Thessaloniki, the half-sister of Alexander. After the fall of Macedon, the city came under the rule of the Romans. Clearly, this wasn't some remote outpost of empire for them, but a thriving center of commerce and high culture in the region. The Roman Forum, dug up by accident in the 1960s, was once a venue for theatrical performances, gladiator fights, and a gathering place for citizens. The Romans later established Thessaloniki as a capital of its Greek provinces and lavished the city with grand public works and monuments, many still visible in the busy streets of the city. The Arch of Galerius is both a war memorial and communication gateway. It was built to commemorate the Emperor Galerius' victory over the Persians and as a critical link in the Via Egnatia, Rome's pan-Balkan highway. A walk to the old town of Thessaloniki gives you an idea of just how important this city was in every empire it belonged to: Macedonian, Roman, Byzantine, or Ottoman, and Byzantine in particular, where it was known as the first after the first, meaning the first after Constantinople, and the grand Orthodox Christian churches of the city are proof of that. Thessaloniki's golden age was during the Byzantine Empire, where it was second only to Constantinople in terms of size, wealth, and religious significance. The Greek Orthodox Church of St. Demetrius, dedicated to the city's patron saint, is Thessaloniki's most revered religious shrine. The saint's relics lie within. St. Demetrius, along with other Paleo-Christian and Byzantine monuments in Thessaloniki, are collectively listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. As one of the crown jewels of the Byzantines, many tried but failed to capture the well-defended city of Thessaloniki. Thessaloniki was a citadel, a walled city. In fact, you can see parts of the old wall running all the way down to the waterfront from here. Of course, all that is useless today, but at least it's good for one thing, for giving you the absolute best views of the city. It's breathtaking. For more than 1,000 years, these fortified walls, gigantic gates, and massive towers were what kept a string of raiders and invaders away. But by the 15th century, nothing could keep the emerging world power of the era at bay. In 1430, the armies of the Islamic Ottoman Empire breached the walls of Thessaloniki. The city, renamed Salonika by the Turks, remained a prosperous hub of commerce up until the collapse of the Ottomans by the end of the First World War. But remnants of their long rule remain, like the Bey Hammam Turkish bathhouse, and of course, the local cuisine, which resembles what you'll find in the lands around the Bosporus Straits. For my first meal in the Balkans, I'm having lunch at a Greek restaurant named Bosporus. I'm told it's a perfect introduction to the cuisine of the region, which was heavily influenced by the Greeks at first and then later by the Ottoman Turks. So, let's enjoy. Balkan cuisine was fusion long before the term was fashionable, a reflection of the cooking traditions represented by the layers of civilizations that established themselves in the region: Greek, Roman, Turk, and South Slav, with their common preference for fresh ingredients, olive oil, grilled seafood, and lamb meat. Apart from history and food, the people of the Balkans, like those in Thessaloniki, share a fondness for the outdoors, doing their shopping, dining, and socializing in the open. And that's the beauty of Thessaloniki, a mix of cultures that create a multifaceted identity, epitomized by one of the most famous landmarks of the city. The rotonda over here is one of the finest examples of the complex layers of history of Thessaloniki, and you don't have to be a historian to even notice it. The circular building at the center is a former Roman temple. Built on another side, a Byzantine Orthodox Christian church. And the tower, once a minaret, was built during the Ottoman era. Christian worship, however, was tolerated by the Ottomans, and many of the city's churches and shrines were spared. Today, it's a secular space. It's only day one, and already we're mesmerized with our first Balkan city of the journey. After the break, follow us to the mountains of Meteora, where ancient monasteries hang perilously from cliffs, and across the border to the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, to bask in the mystic atmosphere of Lake Ohrid. That and more when Executive Class returns.